Hey guys, Anthony here. Before we start, I just wanted to give a little explanation as to what this is. Last week we did episode 4 on viral marketing, and one of the things that I mentioned was Cloverfield, and part of the Cloverfield marketing campaign were some fake newscasts. And I figured out what the company is that made those, and I actually didn't know it was contracted out. I thought they just made that in-house, but they hired the Viral Factory from London to make those fake newscasts. And I got in touch with the guy in charge, one of the guys in charge, he's the co-founder, Matt Smith, and we had an interview that I only expected to go on for about 20 minutes, but we actually got to talk to him for about 2 hours, and it's really, really interesting. There's a few problems with a weird fan noise from his computer, but it's not too bad. I cut out most of them. Hope you guys enjoy it. It was a lot of fun, and we'll see you on Friday. We'll start with the Cloverfield ones. I know you said you didn't do the whole thing. I know you did the news reports. Was there anything else that you were responsible for with that?
No, it was just those news reports.
Okay.
I mean, I think we built a website or something. It was quite a while back. No, they built the Taguato website.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. And then we used Taguato in one of the news clips, or we're in a couple of them. But no, so we just shot those.
Okay, that's so cool. I was oh my god, I was 10 when all that happened, and I couldn't believe that they did that for a movie. That was to me, that was unheard of. That formed so much of what I enjoy about media these days, and just the viewpoints that they use in that movie, like the found footage and the news stuff, that was amazing. Yeah.
I gotta say, I really liked it, and I was really, I think J.J. Abrams is a genius.
He is.
And we were super happy to work on that. We were, our own feeling was, we were a little disappointed, because we both basically, the stuff that we did cost quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the original stuff that they'd been running before, because basically what happened was it was Bad Robot, the studio who did all the early stuff.
Yeah.
They just kind of did it with no budget, just kind of threw it together, and I thought it was excellent. And then Paramount kind of got wind of it and said, well, this is really cool, we should put some budget towards this, and they came to us. And the issue really is we were trying to do. I mean, we had an okay budget. I'm not saying we had no budget at all. We had a decent budget, but compared to a Hollywood film budget, we had nothing.
Yeah. And
we were trying to do kind of Hollywood level special effects on a TV ad budget, and the result is it always felt a bit like wasn't quite as good as the movie, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm more of a fan, to be honest. I'm more of a fan of the original stuff than the stuff we ended up doing. I mean, I think it's good and it got a good response, but
yeah.
I think the more kind of ARG kind of thing, where you were trying to find clues and figure out what was going on, was the really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think honestly, as a whole thing, the ARG and your stuff, I just think it just seems like this gigantic masterpiece of an ad campaign. I think it just works so well.
Cool.
It's amazing.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. So I have some questions about the actual news reports. Was that the first time you had done those, or had you done those before, the news reports?
Oh boy. I mean, do you mean doing just spoof news reports?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good question. No, we had done others, actually. I mean, our kind of trick, I guess, was always to use a camera style. We're basically making ads, right? Viral marketing is like making an ad, but the big difference between an ad that you see on TV and what we do is that, especially back in the day, we weren't paying to put that on someone's website. So if it looked like an ad, then that was always going to be more of a problem, because people don't really want to watch ads. So we often made our stuff look like something else.
Yeah.
And obviously, that could be a bunch of stuff. That could be a documentary. That could be a trailer, a film trailer. That could be, it could be an ad, but kind of a spoof ad. and it could be some like a TV news footage. So I don't know if you've ever seen. I mean, at the time it was a big deal, but you would have been super young because it was several years before we did the Cloverfield thing. We did a thing for Axe. Is it Axe in the US or Lynx?
I think it's Axe, yeah.
Yeah, the deodorant. And we actually, because in the UK it's Lynx, so we did one version that's Lynx and one version that's Axe, which is like a spoof news report from up in Alaska where there are no women, because you know they have these towns up in Alaska where there's like one woman for every 10 guys, and so the town wants to attract more women, and so they spray the entire town basically with Axe. But it was, so it's basically an ad, but it was shot like a news report. If you want to Google it, I mean, I'm sure you can still find it online. If you Google Ravenstoke, Alaska, so that's Ravenstoke, Ravenstoke, Alaska.
Oh yeah, came right up.
You should be able to find it. And that was one of the most successful things we've done to date when we released that. But it's very, very old.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. This is exactly what I mean. Like, it's you can't even tell that it's an ad. That's amazing.
I mean, at some point you get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and especially at the time, Axe's whole thing was "spray more, get more." That was like their tagline.
Yeah.
And at some point during this, a guy actually says, "You spray more and you get more." So then everyone would have been like, okay, it's an ad. But the thing is, people don't care by that point because you've made them laugh.
Yeah, you've already impressed them enough. Now, when you do these, do you use, like, the same stuff that they would use at a news station, like the old tape cameras and stuff, or do you film it with, like, more higher budget cameras and then downgrade it in editing? I've always been curious about that.
So that would depend. In this case, we would have shot it with higher end stuff because we were doing some quite complicated post-production.
Yeah.
Because if you skip to the end, you'll see that we have like a bear and a bunch of animals in the town. And obviously we couldn't get a bear to come down like the main street of this little town. So the bears were shot again. In fact, there's two bears. The bears were shot against green screen, and then we had to kind of composite them in. So that requires us to have a better, higher resolution footage.
Yeah.
And then we would have to give it a grade that made it look like cheap kind of news camera, news studio footage. But if we weren't going to do like any kind of post-production, then we would just shoot on the closest thing we can find to the look we're going for, because it means that's, A, it's cheaper, and B, it's one less stage in the process. Like, you don't have to give it the grade, the slightly crappy grade at the end, and it always going to look better. To be honest, it's always going to look more realistic if you've shot it on the actual camera. And I tell you what, another thing we did way back, like this is one of the first things we ever did. We would have done it in around 2001, 2002. Again, if you Google a thing called Moon Truth.
Yeah, I'll look it up right now.
I think, let me see if I can find it. Moon Truth. Yeah, there you go. Super short.
I'm seeing moon landing conspiracies. I don't think that's
No, that is. That's exactly what it is.
Oh, wait. Is it this one 35 seconds long?
Yeah. So we just shot that for the hell of it. I don't think that there was no client for that. We just made it because we were in a studio and we thought it'd be funny. So we just put that out there because there was all those stupid conspiracy theories on the internet, and we just thought it'd be funny.
Fantastic.
And we actually ended up getting a call from a guy at NASA about that clip, who wanted to talk to us about it. We were kind of freaking out. And he's like, no. But he was like, I'm writing a book about where all these crazy conspiracy theories come from because we don't really understand it. And we saw this video and we think it's hilarious. And apparently they got like 3,000 calls from members of the public saying, you see, that's just the proof. We knew you were lying all along.
Oh, my God.
But the reason I mentioned that clip is because we actually managed to track down there was like one or two of them in the whole of London, the camera that they took to the moon and some of the old film stock that they used. So we were actually able to shoot that on the same exact camera that they shot Neil Armstrong. Was it Neil Armstrong? Or the other guy. Well,
yeah,
Neil Armstrong doing that thing, and it gives it that quality. Would have been really hard to replicate, particularly when the lighting rig like smashes and you get that kind of explosion.
Yeah,
you know, that sort of flash. It's a very particular thing that we wouldn't have been able to do, and so we just shot it on exactly the same camera. So that's it. If we can do that, we always would.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't. That's crazy that you got the same camera. That is definitely shows like the dedication and just like the quality of the stuff.
I think it was in a museum or something, and they let us use it, and they had because they thought this was hilarious.
Yeah,
they thought it was very funny. And they just let us use it. And they were like, yeah, you know, no one ever wants to use this thing, but we have it. And we have some old film. And we never thought we'd get our hands on the actual film stock.
That is so funny.
And in fact, no one even knew whether it would work. You know, it was 40 years old. But it worked just fine.
So when you made these, I know you said people thought the NASA thing was real. Did anybody think that these news reports, like, not catch on that it was for a movie and, like, just totally buy it as 100% real and like get really freaked out over it?
Are you talking specifically about the Cloverfield ones?
Yeah.
You see, the thing with the Cloverfield ones is that they were like intended for the audience of the ARG.
Okay, so they would already know.
And so when we did the seeding job around it, we didn't really seed it out to the mainstream. It would have made no real sense.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I think that's where, you know, the fact that the post-production isn't great means that it never really got out to a wider audience. You only appreciated those videos if you'd been following the ARG. But of course, anyone following the ARG knew damn well they weren't real.
Yeah.
So we didn't get a lot of comments. I don't remember a lot of comments of people freaking out, going, "Oh my God, is this real?" Definitely, some of the stuff we've made, people have taken it seriously, and we just, you know, we're like scratching our heads, going, "How the hell could you take this seriously?" But I mean, I keep referencing other work, but we did a couple of videos for a car, one where a pigeon gets killed, and one where a cat gets killed.
Yeah.
The car name it's the Ford Car KA, and they're pretty brutal. I mean, like, you wouldn't be able to get away with making those now, but back then it was kind of alright because the internet was a different thing. And the cat one was actually never supposed to go out, but it leaked out. And there's one of the major newspapers over here, the Daily Mail, like had a 2-page spread going, "This is the most disgusting thing we've ever seen."
Oh,
you know, it's horrendous.
I know what this is.
I mean, I don't think the guy who wrote the article thought it was real, but they pretended that they thought it was real.
Yeah, just for the hell of it.
And definitely, you know, I've seen comments. I mean, people still upload those things to YouTube, and I've seen comments on YouTube. People are like, "Oh, this is so disgusting! I can't believe we killed a pigeon." It's like, for God's sake, of course we didn't kill a pigeon. Don't be stupid.
Yeah. I've seen this before. Man, it's unbelievable how much stuff you guys have done that I've seen, and it's like, wow.
Well, we've been around for 15 years. That's a long time, man.
That's wild. That's
yeah,
amazing.
Honestly, I don't think the Cloverfield one so much, because it never really made it out onto the more mainstream sites where, like, stupid people hang out. But because the ARG stuff, I mean, I think the kind of people who get into an ARG are way smarter than, like, your average Joe, honestly, because just to have that mindset where it's way more interactive. A lot of it is like figuring out riddles, figuring out, you know, it's a game, right? So it's it's pretty much, you know, those kind of sci-fi Comic-Con. I think most of the time that kind of audience is way smarter and way more like media savvy. You know, they know what's going on.
Yeah, they're more on the ball. Like they're more. So with this specific one, did they give you an exact plan for what they wanted you to do, or did they just kind of say, "Hey, whatever you think would be the best thing for us to do, go ahead"?
Man, it's a while back. From memory, basically what happened was, like I said, the Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams' studio had just been doing this, and I mean they were so like ahead of the curve. I mean, I think there had been a couple of other ARGs, like the I Love Bees one. Movies, but still, this was like way out there, and I think the studio Paramount. I'm not even sure they knew they were doing it. I don't know, but certainly at the point at which Paramount came to us, what they wanted to do was they were going, look, they've created this incredible buzz, but it's quite like you have quite a small audience, but it's highly engaged.
Yeah.
And what they wanted us to do was sort of take that audience and take that kind of ARG and break it out into the mainstream. So we came up with this idea of this kind of scary news footage, but at the end, for reasons I've already sort of mentioned, to do with the fact that the films themselves weren't that convincing, in the end, we only really got those films to kind of go viral within the ARG community. So we probably widened out the ARG community a bit because we managed to get some of the films onto like a few more mainstream sites, like I've forgotten all the names of all the sites that were like the viral sites back then.
Yeah.
But stuff like the Daily Watt, I think Daily Watt is later, but those kind of sites that pick up viral videos, we managed to get them on there. So that widened out the audience a bit, but it was still basically the same kind of, geek audience, film geek audience and sci-fi geek audience who were really into that. So I'm not sure it widened out the audience that much, but that was sort of the plan. That was why they wanted to make viral videos.
Yeah.
See, the challenge we had was we had to stay within the confines of the ARG. They didn't want us to just do something that was completely non-related with the ARG. They wanted us to stay in that universe. So it was always going to be a little tricky to sort of do both those things.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I never really realized that it wouldn't be that it was more for the ARG. I kind of thought it was another part where they were trying to just draw people in, but that's cool. I think that's still a really good thing to have, because it's just whoever's already in it just strengthens their burning desire to know what this is about even more.
Right.
It must have been such a ride. I was a little too young to really know what was going on and be following it, but I kind of after it came out and I saw it and then I went back and saw all that stuff, it was I was like, damn, I wish I knew about all this. I probably wouldn't have been able to keep up, but it's so interesting. So I have one more question about the Cloverfield one specifically. How did you disperse those throughout the community? Did you just post them and then through searching people eventually found them, or did you deliberately post it somewhere that they would find it?
Oh man, I'd have to go back and look at the emails and look at the documentation. So what I'm guessing we did.
Yeah, I know this is a long time.
We would have had contacts with a bunch of viral sites, stuff like Break and just sites that collect videos. We would have been in contact with them all the time. So I imagine we tried to get those guys interested, even though it was a bit of a sort of big ask because the videos didn't really make that much sense just on their own necessarily. But I think we did get them on a few of those sites, and then I imagine what we also would have done was work with Bad Robot, either give the videos directly to Bad Robot to integrate back into the ARG, or we just did that ourselves. But to be totally honest with you, I can't remember exactly how we did it.
Yeah.
And there's another problem, which is at the same time, within a year or so of that, we were also doing another ARG that we worked on with TBWA out of Los Angeles. So they had the whole idea, they created the assets, they did most of the work, but we helped them seed it. And it was an ARG for Shadow of the Colossus video game. And I get those two really mixed up in my head because the video assets were quite similar, and the kind of the whole way the campaign unrolled was quite similar.
That's
so
really
I can't remember.
That's all right. No, that's really cool though. I love this stuff so much. I have one more question about Cloverfield, just about the production of these things. Like, was it a big crew or was it more just shooting it? You know how like just whenever you can find the space to shoot it, or was it like an actual like big production to get these done, or was it kind of just more like run and gun type stuff?
So the answer to that question is it's actually kind of it's both.
Yeah.
Both those things. So because I mean, as you can probably tell from looking at them, the strategy was create some like core film assets, which are the kind of disasters, right?
Yeah.
The footage of the oil rig going down, etc., etc. And so, okay, take a step back. I mean, imagine a typical news story, particularly around some sort of disaster, right? So let's say that an airplane catches on fire and then like does a dramatic landing at an airport. Okay, you'll have the film of you'll have the footage of that happening, and that's like raw footage. That's from people on the ground using their mobile phones, maybe people in the plane, and you'll have like usually 5 or 6 really great bits of footage that have been caught that from different positions on different devices, etc. Right, and then what you and I will see probably on YouTube or on various different sites will be the news footage, you know, the news story.
Yeah.
With a presenter either in a studio or on the location or whatever, graphics added over the top, maybe a voiceover commentary over the top, etc. Reusing those core kind of assets. So we just thought, well, why don't we recreate that? Because then we can spend a ton of money on the we spent like 90% of the budget on those sort of core assets, like the oil rig collapsing, etc. Because those had to be as impressive as possible.
Yeah.
So that was like a big production. You know, we worked with a top high-end post-production suite. They did a sweet deal because they were like really keen to work on it. And you know, we got an amazing deal for the budget we had, and then we really like put a lot of effort into that. And then kind of on the side, we also then shot a bunch of the kind of what we call the wrappers, the news wrappers, to put around those. So it looked like reports were coming in from a bunch of different countries. So you have Japanese ones, you have Russian ones, you have French, you have US, and those were shot very much run and gun. You know, we briefed out local. I think in a couple of them, we even actually just briefed out a news crew, like a for hire news kind of crew, and they just went and shot it. So we gave them a basic idea of what the story was going to be, and then they kind of went out. So those were done super cheap.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that they would do that. That's awesome. I never even thought of that. I was like, man, it must have been so hard to like figure that out and do that. And I was like, oh, well, you just find an actual news crew. That's awesome.
Yeah, a couple of $100. Here you go.
Yeah, that's wow. I have to write that down. I don't know if I ever explained this or not, but I do video as my job, and that's why this is all like 100,000% more impressive to me, just because of like the sheer. All of this just seems like such a monumental like thought process to go through, and like all this stuff is just so cool to me because I'm always trying to replicate certain things to get a certain look, and it's like seeing someone else do it so well, and it's like, wow, I want to be able to do that one day.
I mean, the thing, like, honestly, that the thing we did over again and again and again, which is not actually that, we never even thought of it as particularly radical, but because we come out of the TV ad industry, we sort of were, we were kind of working alongside it. In the TV ad industry at the time, they would spend like $500,000 to replicate like a fake news thing because it was for an ad and that's just the way they do it. And we would be like, and they would use, high-end commercials crew, high-end commercials director, etc. And we were like, why would you do that? If you're trying to make it, obviously if you're trying to make it look like an ad and you want it to be super glossy and all the rest of it, then yeah, sure, you're going to have to spend the money. But if you want to make it look like news footage, just get a news cameraman. You know,
Yeah,
he'll make it way better and he'll be way cheaper. So
yeah.
we did that all the time. And as I said before, you know, a lot of the stuff we did looked like something else. It didn't look like a TV ad. It looked like something else. So, and, you know, we were working with way smaller budgets back then.
Yeah.
So in a lot of cases, we didn't even have the choice. It was just, that was like a necessity.
So, my first question I have here is, I was on the site because I kind of accidentally stumbled upon the website because I was looking up the viral marketing campaign, and then I tried to figure out, like, who was the director of it. I didn't know they had, like, hired anyone out. And then I was trying to find that on the cast and crew on IMDb, and then I found this 30-second or 40-second case study video, and it mentioned the Viral Factory and said about how you guys did the news reports, and I was like, whoa. So I went to your site, and I was looking at that, and then I found, like, all the stuff that it had written about what you guys do, and it said a thing about bot views. You knew how to tell the difference between real views and bot views. Is that something that you can talk about, or you want to keep that under wraps the way you guys know?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that.
Okay.
I think, is that still on our site, or is that something you just found on Google?
Oh, no, that was on the site.
Oh, probably I should get rid of that because it's kind of a little out of date, I think. But I mean, yeah, I think, as I said, I think it's kind of out of date. I mean, I guess when viral marketing started, you know, there was no such thing as bought views. There was no system. There was no YouTube. There was no Facebook. There was no way of buying views. You had to make a video that was like funny and you know, good enough that people were going to want to send it to each other. And if that happened, then you'd get a whole ton of views, like millions of views.
Yeah.
And it was also kind of, in a way, it was way easier back then. If you did something good, people were really wanting to share it because there wasn't a lot of video content that you were sort of competing with. So you could get millions of views, but if you made something that was you know, excuse my language, a little crappy, then no one would see it. It was like really all or nothing. You couldn't make something kind of mediocre and then like go on YouTube and just run an AdWords campaign and promote it.
Yeah.
And then what happened was those systems kind of came along, particularly YouTube, but clients didn't necessarily understand the difference between a view that had been paid for and a view that was as a result of someone wanting to watch the video and, let's say, sharing it, you know, on a blog or whatever, and driving what we call those organic views. So, and you know, sometimes we call them real views because they are kind of genuinely people wanting to watch and engaging with the video versus it just popping up in a pre-roll or whatever. And so there was, for a while, there was this like weird grey area where people would make a video and then a seeding company would come along and go, yeah, we'll seed it, and then they would just pump it on YouTube and get 5 million views or whatever, and then the client would be super happy and go, oh, our video's gone viral, and it sort of pissed us off because because now anyone could make any old video and then get 5 million views for it. So the skill set that we had, which was making a video that was good enough to get 5 million views organically, was kind of, was being undermined, was being devalued.
Yeah.
So that was probably when I wrote that stuff on the website. I mean, nowadays, given that Facebook is the number one platform for video, particularly kind of viral video, ads, you can't really get a viral video on Facebook, or it's much harder without spending money now, because even if you have like a really successful Facebook page with a big audience, with a big number of people who've liked it, you can put a video on it, post a video on that Facebook page, but it'll only hit a fraction of your audience. So in any case, just to get to your audience, you have to boost the film, right? You have to give it, you have to put budget behind it. So these days, there's not actually so much of a difference between a paid view and an organic view. It's the line is really blurred.
Yeah.
And basically these days, if you want to get a viral video, pretty much you have to pay for media and production.
It's really interesting. Like, not a lot of people think about that now.
I really.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you know, sorry, go on.
No, you're good. I'll hold on a second. You can go.
No, all I was going to say was for us, it's an irritation. Like we you know, we're like old guys now who started doing this 15 years ago, and it seemed like it was way more fun and way more interesting back then when there was a real difference between you've got to make a viral video, because if you don't, you're just going to fail. Whereas these days, you can just go, well, it doesn't matter so much. We'll just make anything, and then we'll boost it on Facebook, and we'll, you know, rack up a bunch of views. It seems
it's like you have to try a lot more and care a lot more about what you're doing.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
And that I run into that stuff all the time on Facebook. I do, in addition to my video stuff, I do art, and I post that like every other day, and I don't get like it doesn't get any like coverage, and the only way it will, it's like, hey, boost your post for $5 and you can reach all these people, and it's like, why do I have to pay for that? Like, I have people that like my page, and you're purposely not showing it to them just so I have to pay. Like,
I know,
it's
it
enraging.
drives me nuts, and I kind of get it. I mean, I kind of get it if you're a brand.
Yeah.
I kind of get it. It still annoys me, because I still think if a company like a brand makes the effort to make content which is good, then they should be able to show it to their audience, and then the audience decides whether they want to spread it further by sharing it, you know, commenting on it, whatever. But for you as an individual, it's just insane that you would have to pay like $50 to reach the people who've expressed an interest in seeing your stuff. You know, it's
like a slap in the face.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, it undermines. I think it undermines what I mean, I got to say, I kind of I've got my own little Facebook boycott going on. I don't use it except professional reasons where I have to.
Yeah.
But you know, in my personal life, I don't.
Yeah, I really try to stay away from it unless I'm posting my art or promoting something I'm doing. It's just sickening anymore.
It's just hard.
And go to other better platforms. And the thing that gives me hope is I've got 2 kids. One's 15, one's 13, and I'm not even sure they have Facebook accounts. And if they do have them, they literally never ever use them.
That's good.
For them, Facebook is just like a thing that their parents do, and so I think Facebook's screwed in the long term. I don't know how they're going to cope when this new generation comes up, and they're trying to, you know, it becomes like it becomes the new generation of consumers, and they're wanting to advertise to them, and this generation's like, nah, sorry, don't be Facebook.
I hope so. We can only hope. There's also another thing I noticed. It was when I first got on the website. I actually learned a lot about viral marketing from just going on your website. I was looking at it, and I realized that it seems like more like when people come to your website, they already know what they're looking for, and you're just kind of trying to sell them on the finer details of like, hey, we know this, how to do that, and like all this stuff. So like when you get people coming to your website, like is it mostly people that come to you already know that, hey, I want a viral marketing campaign, or do you get people that are like, hey, what's this? I don't really know. You know, I'm kind of curious about it. Is it kind of like if you know, you know, and if you don't really go to these people? Is that how it is, or I'm just curious about?
I think most of the people we get coming, I mean, to be honest, most of the work we get doesn't really come, or most of the contacts we get don't really come from the website.
Yeah.
They tend to be like word of mouth. So
yeah,
someone will say, "Oh, I want to run a viral marketing campaign," and someone will go, "Oh, I know this." And it's basically because we've been around for a long time, and
yeah,
you know, we were there right at the start. But I guess the people who do come to our website, normally what happens is they've been tasked with finding 2 or 3 agencies who can run a campaign for them. You know, because someone in their company wants to run a campaign, or they want to run a campaign, and then they're just doing that research where they're like, well, which agencies should we get in contact with? And so most of the time it's just about showing the work. You know, like you said, you went there and you recognized a bunch of the videos,
Yeah.
Anthony, you said that earlier. And that's really the key thing. That's the key selling point is you go to the site and you go, oh, I've seen that one, I've seen that one, I've seen that one. And then you think, well, if I've seen them, then it means it works. And that's, I would say, 90% of the people who contact us, who like call us up or whatever, because through the website, that's the first thing they say is, oh, I went on your site and I saw I'd already seen a bunch of your work, therefore I decided to get in touch.
Yeah, it's effective. Devin, do you ever remember the Samsung Electronics LED sheep thing where the sheep formed shapes on the side of the hill? Do you ever see that?
I do remember that.
That he made that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's super awesome. Well, I'd like to ask, what was your favorite thing?
That's one of my questions. This is my next question, actually. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Because I surely want to know.
Oh man, I have a couple.
Let's hear it.
I think I think one of probably my favorite is a thing we did for what the hell was the name of the company? I can't even remember. I don't think it existed. It was called AMBX. And I reckon if you Google, let me see, I'm just on Google now, AMBX gamers. It still exists. Gamers.
Yeah, I was looking on the website earlier, looking at all the stuff, and I was like, wow, it's a lot.
If you search for Philips AMBX Gamers Get Owned, a video will come up, which is one of the nastiest things we've ever done. That got released, and that's probably the favorite thing we've done that actually got a release. There are 2 other videos that didn't get released for reasons that I legally can't go into, but, which would be my favorites, but unfortunately no one will ever be able to see those. But of all the ones that got released, that was my favorite.
That was wow.
That thing makes me laugh so hard.
Wow.
So I'll tell you a little anecdote about that, which is probably a good part of the reason why it's just so bleak, right? I mean, you never get to make ads where people die at the end. Like, the guys really heavy, and then just silence. I mean, that makes me laugh every time. But this, you guys know the Cannes Lion Festival, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this won a gold lion at Cannes, which is like a big deal, and no one could go and pick it up. So at the last minute, I had to jump on a plane and kind of rush down there because they're like, you won a gold, you got to come. Someone's going to come pick it up.
Go get it.
Yeah. So I'm in, and it's in this huge theater, and they project these ads onto this massive screen. It's like a huge cinema, right, with a big cinema screen, and most of the stuff that's being shown, because this again is pretty old. It's like beautifully crafted car ads and perfume ads, and it's all beautifully shot, and it's all very gentle and lovely. And then this comes up, and I had to go and stand at the end of the stage so I could come on stage once the thing was over. So I was able to watch the audience watching this, and it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen, man. Because at the beginning they're like, "Oh, this is kind of weird and funny," but I don't really get it because they're all advertising executives in their 40s, and then the guy starts shooting people, and literally they were horrified because the thing is, you're just watching on a little screen, right? When you see it in massive, it's all really big in picture. It's horrifying. So it made me really laugh to rock up to this ad festival and then just upset everyone.
No, that's interesting.
It's so good.
I'm glad
the guy who directed that is like a big shot director now, Ben Wheatley, in the UK. He's a famous guy.
That's so cool.
That's cool. Yeah, that is cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. There you go. It's a funny story.
Now, could I just how that was made? I guess you guys just filmed normally with the camera, but with the guy, that's just 3D animation. Then did you have to track the movement of the camera to keep him in the scene, or was that all manual?
think it was tracked manually. You know what? I can't remember, and I can't remember whether we just animated it kind of from scratch. I think we probably did because it's got that kind of weird video game movement.
Yeah.
I don't think we did motion capture. I just don't think we would have had enough money to do motion capture. So yeah, I think it's just a 3D animation and then tracked in, and then yeah, I guess maybe someone was maybe we had a guy holding a gun with a green screen suit with a chroma key suit. Geez, I genuinely can't remember how we did it.
Yeah. That's cool though. That stuff's so interesting. How
It really is.
the 3D integration, I always think that's so cool. I'm like trying to learn how to do it myself, but I'm not even like at the point where I'm doing it yet. I'm like still trying to watch tutorials and like figure out, like wrap my head around it. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the campaigns, but like kind of the other side of it. Like, are there any ones that you made it and then you're like, oh man, I'm not really feeling this one, or you made it and it didn't kind of hit the mark that you guys wanted for getting shared around?
Yeah, there are a few. And, sometimes we can legitimately put the blame at the feet of the client. Sometimes we
Yeah.
made things that were great or would have been great, and then the client got their hands on them and changed them and made them not great.
That happens to me a lot.
And there are others which is 100% us, where we've made stuff and we genuinely thought it was really good, and then it just didn't fly and people didn't like it, and it's where it was disappointing. I mean, sometimes it's weird. Like, actually, we ran a campaign just last year, so it's fresh in my mind, where the client was happy. I mean, the client was really happy with the results, and we were totally disappointed. Like, we wrote them this report at the end of the, it was for ski resort.
Yeah.
And it's called, Jesus, what's it called? I think it's called The Most Insane GoPro Line or something. No, because then you get the genuine Most Insane GoPro Line. What can you Google? And then maybe if you Google the name of the ski resort. Yeah, there we go. I'll drop. It's the into the chat.
Hold on a second, we have that noise again.
Sucks these days. Scopes. Okay, well, Anthony, I can only send it to you for some reason. Anyway, I mean, it got like, I don't know, it got like 1.5 million views, something like that. And the client was like, yeah, this is great. We thought it would do way better. So that's one. But then we've done others where, like we did a campaign for Samsung, which we thought was going to be great, and we really liked it. And then just the comments went horrible. Everyone was like, oh, this is bullshit. This sucks, etc., etc. And it was nothing to, the client had trusted us 100%. Hadn't intervened, hadn't made bad decisions, had been great, been really trusted us.
Yeah.
And that one, you know what? I don't even know if that one's still online. Let me have a look.
Oh, he actually added it into The Shining. Oh, I love when people do this.
Yeah. So he did all the. So he's kind of a friend. He did all the animation for that skiing one.
Wow.
And yeah, you could ask him. That's like all he does, and he's amazing at it.
That's my other question. When you guys do this stuff, do you commonly bring in other animators to work on stuff?
Yeah, generally, yeah. We
Cool.
don't have anyone working in house for us like that.
Yeah.
We work with people externally. So
That's cool.
now I'm going to show you, this is a really good example of one where this just tanked, and we never really figured out why people really hated it. But actually, weirdly, now all the comments are really good. But the comments at the time were terrible.
So, obviously you guys probably like have a lot of fun doing this, yes? Like, you enjoy doing it like quite a bit?
You know what? Probably not as much as, I mean, it's a great job. It beats working in an office. And it's great being your own boss, and it's fun doing something creative.
Yeah.
I guess I think a lot of people think that because the stuff we make is kind of wacky, that we, and kind of fun and silly, that we are wacky and fun and silly, and that we have a good time doing it. But it's work.
A lot of work goes into it.
Given like a big responsibility by a client, and often quite a bit of money, and it's your job to spend it wisely. And in that way, it's actually way more serious than people, I think, imagine. I think they just think we're like drunk all the time and just like
making. Yeah.
A lot of it's serious. You have to take it seriously, and there's a lot of process. Some of it's quite boring.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I don't want to make it sound. It's a great job, right? I got to do this for a living instead of doing something else. And you could do a lot worse. But yeah, it's not necessarily what people think it is.
I was gonna ask, is there like a series or franchise or movie that you'd wanna do this for? Like you'd want to make a cool viral thing, or like a reboot of a movie or something in the future?
I mean, movies are actually kind of problematic. I touched on this earlier, talking to Anthony about, we were always a little disappointed with what we did for Cloverfield.
Really?
Yeah, because it felt like this amazing opportunity, right? Obviously massive fans of J.J. Abrams, and that was before he'd done the Star Trek reboot and the Star Wars reboot. But even back then, it was just like, wow, we get to work with this amazing, young, cool director who totally gets it. And obviously Cloverfield hadn't come out yet, and they wouldn't really tell us very much about the movie, but we were getting the buzz around the ARG and all the rest of it. So it was like a big deal for us. We were super excited to work on this, and then it sort of dawned on us that the budget, and we had a good budget. I mean, by the standards of like making viral marketing videos back then, they gave us a decent budget, but compared to the budget that a Hollywood movie has for the special effects, it was tiny.
Yeah. So
we suddenly realized, shit, we've got to do something that isn't going to make the movie look kind of cheap, that has the scale of something that might happen in the movie, but we're doing it on a much smaller budget. And I mean, we got this really good post company, and they worked really hard for way less budget than it should have cost. But the result was never quite what all of us had hoped for. So we always felt like we'd kind of let them down a bit, like we'd let them.
Oh, really?
Studio a bit. I mean, it still worked, and they still seemed to be, and bless him, J.J. Abrams, I think, sent us a nice bottle of wine and then said thank you. But we were always slightly like,
so if you could go back, would you do it again?
Could have done that better. And that really is the issue that we're always going to have if we work with movies, is particularly that type of movie, which is like an effects-based movie.
Yeah. Is
how do you make something that kind of brings it into the real world, but doesn't undermine it. And often you can't get access to the actors, you can't get access to any of the IP. I mean, I've only really seen it done once really, really well, and it was the one with the chimpanzee firing a rifle.
I love that.
It was for Planet of the Apes. It was like for the first Planet of the Apes reboot, I think. And that's the only one I can remember where it was like, yeah, that's a great idea, because it's within the universe of the film, but it didn't cost a fortune to make it. That's a relatively cheap production.
Yeah.
A lot of other times where I've seen it done, and obviously I'm trying to think of examples, but I can't think of any right now. They fall into the same trap that we did, where it's just not quite there. It doesn't quite deliver on what you'd expect the movie to deliver. So we when we get approached by studios, which doesn't happen that often anymore, but it used to happen quite often, we quite often didn't actually go ahead and work with them for that reason.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I never really considered that part of it, because it would be like really difficult to try and meet what they're doing, especially with something like Cloverfield, where they won't show you anything.
Right, exactly.
It's great that it was so secretive, but it's also not great if it's your job to help them.
Bring it to life. I know.
Did you like the movie? Like the end product, if you saw it?
Yeah. I did. I deliberately didn't go to see it at the cinema though, because everyone told me it made them feel sick. But I watched it on I watched it on my big TV at home, and I thought it was great. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
the big complaint was that the handheld camera thing was made people feel disorientated.
Yeah.
But it didn't that effect on me. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. Have you ever done this for like a video game or like something like that?
We've done a few for video games. It's sort of a similar
thing. Yeah, that's what I was
challenge, especially if they won't give you
access to anything. Yeah.
Any of the assets for the video game. We did a couple of quite successful things for a video game. I'm trying to remember what the hell they were now. We did two for Activision that I can't remember what either of them were.
I looked up something that said something about someone playing Guitar Hero on a bike.
Definitely did do a Guitar Hero one, but I don't think it was the one where it was on a bike. I don't know. It's way back.
I just wanted to ask.
So definitely we did. The one we did for Stalker was actually, Stalker was like an early, but quite successful Activision game. The one we did for that, we shot a whole bunch of helicopter footage of basically people getting murdered by some monster. It was done in sort of infrared.
Yeah.
And that did pretty well. That was quite successful. And it's the same thing, the way we see our job really is to kind of to work with clients who don't necessarily have products that are that entertaining, and then try and make something entertaining around the product.
Yeah. Oh my God.
If you've got an entertainment product like a video game or a movie, then what we're doing is sort of almost competing with the product itself, which is sort of weird. I think honestly these days, if you look at, especially for a game franchise or even a movie franchise that's really successful, the thing that is going to be the most effective is just a really good trailer. You get 30 million views of the trailer on Facebook because everyone wants to see it, right? The new Star Wars trailer comes out and they're like teasing the trailer 3 days before it comes out, counting down and all the rest of it, or a new Iron Man movie, trailer comes out, just tons of people don't want to see it. If we made some viral about like Iron Man, but in the real world or whatever, it probably wouldn't be as successful as the trailer.
Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense, actually.
I'm actually watching this Stalker thing. It's Stalker versus Zombie, right? It's like the infrared footage and the guy's shooting back and then they catch up with him.
Yeah, that's the one. I think there was
I'm like having a moment here because my friend wrote a book, or he was gonna write a book like 2 years ago, and it had a part about zombies in it, I think, or it was like something about like the apocalypse, and I found this clip and I downloaded it and put it in this trailer that I made for him. We never did anything with the trailer. I think I might have posted it on my YouTube channel, but I wasn't trying to like get any views on it. I just made it like just to like have fun and like make something for his book. And I just like, that's so crazy that I'm now talking to you that made it. That's so cool.
Yeah, you've. Oh my God, you made a lot of things that I've seen and were like, awesome. Like,
I put I had like a news thing that I put over it and stuff, and like turned it into like a newscast. It's so weird.
Oh, cool. It's funny.
Yeah, that's wild. I don't even know what happened to that. I think I may have posted it, but it's down now if I did. But yeah, that's
Right.
cool. It's embarrassing. It was so stupid. That was like before I really... It wasn't before I did commercials as a job, but it was like... I didn't really like have clients quite yet. I was just still doing them for free for people.
Right.
And I was still like really learning how it worked, and it was just horrible. So I have a question about... I have one more question about the actual campaigns, and then I have some different ones. But I know you said that sometimes you just hand it straight over to the production company, or you work with people that have viral sites. Are there any other ways, like just pretty much just posting it in a forum, that you guys have distributed them or like gotten people to get interested?
We used to post stuff on Reddit, but
That's
the
good.
Reddit community's become, doesn't like ads anymore, which I get, so we've stopped doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, these days, it's big Facebook pages, big entertainment-based Facebook pages like Lad Bible or Viral Thread or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing about those guys is they charge way more. We used to pay like a few bucks to go on a various websites. We'd pay $50 here, a couple of $100 there. These guys charge like thousands of dollars.
Oh, it's
are you
insane.
serious?
So we have to kind of concentrate. But on the other hand, they have all the power. I mean, all the websites, sort of sad actually, because I used to love all those websites like Laughing Squid and, Daily One and all that stuff. But those sites now, they just get no views. I mean, I'm surprised they're even still around. There's just no one seems to be going there. And all the activity is on Facebook. So it's kind of made our life easier in a way, because there used to be hundreds of those sites, and we used to have to reach out to all of them and negotiate with all of them and make payments to all of them, or do like barter deals or whatever. Now there's like 5, so we can get the whole thing done in like 2 days. But it's not as interesting. It's not as much fun. You don't have the same contact. It used to be like much more of a cottage industry. Now it's super grown up.
That's so interesting how everything, I guess the main reason why is just the internet is like becoming more and more like a commodity. Like everyone, it's like the companies are just like taking over what used to be more like a Wild West of sorts.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly right.
And it's really sad.
I grew up in the days when it was the Wild West, and that was kind of what I loved, and I loved working in it. And now I just, kind of bums me out of it. But
It does, yeah. It's really sad.
I can imagine, yeah. Like, you've been doing it for so long. And
yeah, it doesn't feel like it's getting better,
yeah,
No.
yeah, especially for what you guys do.
And now with
Yeah.
the whole net neutrality thing, like that's just, I feel like that's going to be the death blow to any of the things that are
God
interesting
forbid.
on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And then it just becomes. I mean, you know what? Weirdly, I'm not sure I want this to go into your podcast, because I'll get I'll get death threats. But there's a part of me that sort of hopes that the net neutrality succeeds, as in the fight against it. Which I've emailed people like politicians and all that. Trying to be on the side of net neutrality. Part of me hopes it goes ahead, because it'll make the internet the thing that the internet came into being against. Before the internet, everything was controlled by, if you were a content maker, you basically had to try and get your stuff on TV.
Yeah.
And TV was controlled by it was just impossible to break into, right? I mean, unless you had connections and your dad knew someone else's dad or whatever, or just no way you were going to get your stuff on TV. And the internet came along, and early YouTube, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
My feeling is that if the net neutrality, if net neutrality disappears, then we'll need a kind of a new internet. And actually, in a way, a new internet, a new set of protocols, and a new set of browsers. I mean, you've already got the dark web as a kind of shadow internet. There's no reason why actually a bunch of, kind of freedom hackers couldn't just go, well, screw it, we'll create a new browser, we'll create a new protocol. It'll be much more basic. It'll be kind of old-fashioned. It'll be text, image, and some basic video and whatever. And then people like me can go back there and be like, okay, cool. Now I don't have to deal with the bullshit. That's I'll just use the internet for Netflix. And
yeah, that's actually a really interesting idea. I never thought of that because, like, if the internet ever became what net neutrality is trying to stop, like, people are resilient. They're just going to go to the next thing and like create a whole new thing. I'm excited about that though. Like, if it does happen and all is not lost, like, that would be really interesting. I'd love to be a part of that. I'd go straight to that immediately.
That's a neat perspective.
Yeah, I think all those people who are sort of the early adopter types back in the early days of the internet would be like, hell yeah, straight back there. And the thing is, what would be interesting about it, I mean, it's all hypothetical, but what would be interesting about it is now we know where the weak points were. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It could be designed from the ground up to be resistant to commerce, resistant to control by governments. It could actually be a much more kind of resilient network.
Hell, I'm all for it. Like, I want it to survive as long as it possibly can.
Because I got to say, I think net neutrality it's coming, man. Whether we like it or not, they'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
Surely.
Fine.
Sorry to be so pressing on a Tuesday.
No.
No, yeah, that's fine. Tuesdays are always like this. No.
I'm sorry I was getting in here late. I felt awful about it.
No, don't worry.
So I have a question. I have two last questions, and then if we want to talk about anything else. But you're like, I know you do a lot of different projects. What would your typical day be like? Like, what you go and do, and what your responsibilities are?
So we're a really small company, so that's the first thing to say. So I sort of do a bit of everything, and I know it's a cliche to say, but I really don't have a typical day. It depends on a bunch of stuff. Sometimes we're super busy, and sometimes we're like not busy at all. I also kind of run the business side of things, so sometimes it's really, just like doing, admin, processing invoices, making sure we're all getting paid. I don't know, just basic stuff, right? In terms of the campaigns, so obviously writing ideas is a big part of it. New business calls, if someone calls up, then that's often quite a lot. We'll have various different things at different stages, from someone calling up and saying, hey, I want a viral video campaign, through to, okay, well, let's like really drill down into what that means. Let's maybe write a brief. Let's discuss the brand. Let's discuss the target audience, the kind of detail, getting into more detail at that. Then, writing ideas. I don't get so involved in the production side. That tends to be my business partner, Ed, who kind of runs that bit. But obviously, if I'm around and I don't have anything else to do, I might help out on,
everything.
Budget together, finding a location, stuff like that. I mean, that's for the smaller jobs. The bigger jobs, we would have people doing that, professionals. I get involved in a lot of the seeding, so I might be writing a proposal for seeding. I might, sometimes I actually get involved in doing the seeding because I think it's useful to actually, like, not just be hiring other people to do it. More often it's coordinating seeding, so it's a lot of times seeding is international, so we can't do it all. So we have like a network of people in a bunch of most different countries around the world, at least in Europe, Asia, Latin America, US. So I'd be coordinating with them and answering questions and maybe approving payment to websites or whatever. So it's pretty broad. It's pretty broad.
So tell me if I got this right here. So you guys, you do the actual stuff to make these commercials and stuff, but not always. So like, you guys are kind of like the unifying point for, and then you hire whoever you need to do this, whoever you need to do that, and then there are stuff that you do on your own. But it's kind of like, am I getting that right? Like, you guys get hired by someone to do the viral marketing campaign, and then you kind of find the best people to do the job if you don't do it yourself?
Yeah, so writing ideas, I would say, is about 80% us.
Yeah.
We do have a network of creatives but we have to pay them, so it depends if we're getting paid to write ideas or not. That we do most of. Production, quite little. So my business partner Ed might be head producer, so he would then put together a team and a crew, but he would usually have a production assistant at the very least, and more often than not he would exec produce it, and he would hire a producer because you need to be super focused on any one production. And if we've got like 2 or 3 productions going on at once, or we've got a production but we're also writing ideas for a different client, then we need someone who can just dedicate all their time to this project. And then they would put together a team with, okay, we need art department, we need wardrobe, we need set designers, we need set builders, we need a studio, or it might be that we're shooting abroad, so we're shooting in Canada or South America or somewhere, or South Africa or somewhere like that, in which case we'd have a local facilities company, production company locally, and we would liaise with them, and we would be saying to them, okay, send us photos of the cast, send us photos of the wardrobe, send us photos of the location, and then we would fly down there at the last minute and be on the actual shoot, but we wouldn't be there for the whole prep. So the thing, because we're small and because we don't really have many people in-house, we're flexible about how we work. We don't have a big team that we have to keep working all the time. We used to, but we actually it was a stupid way to do this kind of work, because each production is completely different. So we have a whole, there's certain people we'll work with again and again and again because we trust them and because they like working with us. Generally, one production doesn't really resemble the next.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's kind of a problem I've been running into with my own, because I have a production company with my friend that does video and then our friend that's a photographer. And our problem is always, oh man, we're going to need to hire someone to do this, and we can't do all of this stuff ourselves, and we're really like trying to do everything on our own. And I think it's time that we kind of give up and just recognize when we need to hire someone, because that's a really smart idea, and I feel like it's a lot better for your mental health to just let someone who knows what they're doing handle it.
Yeah, and quite often, honestly, it saves you money in the long run.
Yeah.
Because, if you try and do everything yourself and then stuff goes wrong, then quite often you have to spend money fixing the mistakes, and that's going to cost you more. So I think, if we have if we're like a really small production, we might do everything ourselves. But more often than not, we've got bigger budgets, and we have to hire people who are total pros who know what they're doing.
That's really cool. So I have my last actual question is just like, I know you said that you have a partner that you started this with and you've been around for a while. What's kind of like the timeline of your getting into video and then getting to this point? Because to me, this just seems like I just can't even like comprehend this whole thing you have set up, and like I'd love to know like how you got started and then how it kind of snowballed into what it is now.
Yeah. So, the first thing to say is, I'm obviously I work in video, but I'm not really, I'm not like a hands-on producer. I'm not a filmmaker like you are.
Yeah. That's
Ed, my business partner. So my journey was kind of a weird one. I actually worked super long time ago making CD-ROMs, like interactive CD-ROMs, which were basically like kind of, I don't know what they were. They were like websites on a CD that you would put in your laptop, and then you would like click around.
Yeah.
Did that for a few years, and then went and obviously the internet was starting to become sort of something, kind of network that companies were starting to be interested in. But I mean, literally just building kind of brochureware sites, stuff like that. It was super early days, but I went to work for an agency based in London, who were like one of the first digital agencies, basically, also as a producer. And then I had a kind of a weird few years where I worked for a bunch of places, and then I ended up in a venture capital company with quite a cool job, basically being like a consultant, a kind of in-house consultant to all the the companies that were getting funded by this venture capital company.
Yeah.
Kind of like an incubator. So we had tons of small companies all kind of being incubated. So I was like the guy who'd go in and say, okay, this is how to run your web strategy. So that was good fun. But in the sort of as a hobby, I had started a website called punchbaby.com, which was just an archive of funny videos that was updated once a day. And the purpose behind that was actually to just show clients and show people, if you update your website once a day, then you'll get regular traffic. If you don't do that, I mean, it's so obvious like these days when everyone's updating content all the time. But back then, literally big companies would be like, well, we built a website. Why would we want to change the content? And, but why isn't anyone coming to visit our website? It's like, well, because you're not changing the content. So this site was just that. I just had a whole bunch of funny little videos that I collected, and I started putting them up on this website, and it became super popular. It was getting 100,000 unique visits a day, largely from the US, but all over Europe, etc. So I became kind of it was my alter ego, if you like. I wrote under a pseudonym, but I became kind of this guy who knew about viral videos, and I was going into advertising agencies and talking to them about, well, you should start thinking about taking this seriously, and they totally didn't. And then one day I saw the first viral video that I had ever seen that had been made deliberately to be viral, and it was and it actually had the Viral Factory written on it. So I was like, whoa, that's cool, because I've been trying to make my own videos, but I'm not really a video maker, so the stuff I'd made was hopeless. This was really good. It's called, if you want to Google it, it's called Headrush. And if you Google Headrush and the Viral Factory, you'll see it was very short, but it went super viral. So I then reached out to whoever had made it, and it turned out to be the guy who's now my business partner, Ed. And he was just like, whoa, what? I tried to make it viral, but I had no idea how big it was going to be. His reason for making it was just to try and get work by his directors, because he was a commercials producer. He was trying to get work by his directors, seen by like creative directors in big agencies, and he figured this might be a good way to do it. And so he was like, "Well, I can't believe what's going on." So we sat down and we kind of shared knowledge. I was like, "Well, look, I can tell you what's happening on the internet side. I totally get that, but from a video production side, that's amazing. Could you do it again?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think so." So we're like, "Well, why don't we start a company?" beats making TV ads, and it beats working in a venture capital company. So that's kind of how we founded the company.
Yeah, we just watched the little
yeah, we just saw the clip. That's so cool. That's amazing how that's the way you guys came together.
Yeah.
And it's funny because both of us assumed that the other person would be in the US. Like because that's right, because I'd written him this email saying, "That's amazing, can we talk?" And he had seen that email, but he hadn't replied to it. And he had a meeting with these two young creatives at Ogilvy and Mather, big advertising agency, who'd seen the Headrush video and were like, "Wow, that's amazing," because they were like, they kind of got it, but they were the only people in their agency who got it, and they were just tearing their hair out because no one would listen to them. So Ed goes off to this meeting with these two young guys, these two young creatives, and he's like, "Yeah, it's weird. I'm getting emails from all over the world. I got an email from some guy called Winston at Punch Baby today." So that was my pseudonym. And these two guys I mean, talk about a coincidence. Probably if he'd said that to like anyone else in London, in any other creative in London, they'd have been like, yeah, okay, whatever, never heard of it. These two guys were like, oh my God, we're massive fans. We love that site. That's amazing. He wrote to you. Oh my God, that's so incredible. So then Ed got this idea that I was like this super important guy. And so he comes back and he's like, oh, right, where are you? And I'm like, well, I'm just down, I'm in London. Where are you? He's like, oh, I'm in London too. And it turns out his office is 10 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow.
So,
Holy crap.
So we arranged a meeting, and yeah, it was cool. And we decided to start the business.
It was destiny.
It was destiny, yeah.
That is really cool. That's incredible how, the world is a very small place.
It really just goes to show if you want to do something and have similar interests with someone, like you can work towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Come together
totally.
somehow.
I mean, I got to say, we were quite lucky in the sense we were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Starting a bit in film production, it's brutal. I mean, there's a lot of competition. It's really hard work, and we just happened to kind of have this angle that no one else had at the time, which allowed us to do this really great work. I mean, if I was the same age as I was back then, looking at like, well, should we start a viral marketing agency now? I'd be going, that's like a massive challenge. Whereas back then, we were just like, well, if we just get people to understand what we're talking about, then we're pretty sure we can get them to, to brief us.
I can't imagine even like today, because like I don't think everybody knows what viral marketing is, like normal consumers, but I think they understand the concept more than they would have back then.
Yeah.
So people would be a lot more resistant to it. Like they don't even like think about it as not being an advertisement anymore. They're like, oh, it's a viral video,
Video. Yeah,
whatever.
But then it does its job in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah, they've already been hooked and they don't even know.
That's right. And everyone gets the concept of viral. I mean, back then we would have to explain it from like first principles.
Yeah.
The internet is a very powerful propagator of information, and because the barriers to me telling someone else something are really, really low, right? Like, I mean, it was email back then, but even so, it's super easy to send an email to 20 people.
Yeah.
And it's super easy for each one of those people to forward that email to another 20 people, and then you have exponential growth. And honestly, that kind of simple concept, we were going into a lot of big advertising agencies and trying to explain that, and people were just like, "You're mad! What are you talking about? That's not how content gets distributed." And we're like, it is how content gets distributed. You just haven't seen it yet. And then we would say to them, so are you telling me you never get like a funny video sent to your inbox? And they're like, oh yeah, I get that all the time. My friends send it to me. And we're like, so do you genuinely think that you're like you and your little circle of friends who are on that email are the only people who've seen that video? And they were like, well, yeah. I'm like, no. Everyone else, go around the office, ask people, when you go to the pub, ask your friends if they've seen that video, and I guarantee you they will have done. So yeah.
That is
It happens very quickly.
Yeah.
It's got to be so hard to create something with intention of it going viral.
Yeah, I'm very impressed that you guys are just like, yeah, let's make something that goes viral. Like I've been trying to do that for years.
I mean, it's hard. It's definitely harder now, and I think, to be honest, we've actually. I mean, I suppose the intention is the same, but back in the day, it was very much right. Let's try and make something go viral. These days, it's more about let's make something that people will want to share.
Yeah.
Which sounds the same, but it's kind of different because that people sharing. I mean, when something goes viral, it happens. It kind of needs to happen in a compressed period of time, so that you get this kind of explosion of buzz. And it still does happen, but it's happening more and more rarely.
Yeah.
And it tends to happen with like hashtags and stuff that, like that whole thing. That definitely, the Me Too hashtag definitely went viral, right? Women kind of telling their stories, that was a viral effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's so much with films anymore. What you do see is people sharing on Facebook, but or retweeting or posting stuff but that happens over a much longer period of time, so it doesn't feel quite the same. So these days we're much more about, right, what can we make that people just want to share in certain situations? So if they're feeling happy, if they're feeling like, okay, it's Friday, I want to share a certain type of content, or it's Monday, so I want to share a totally different type of content, or it's Wednesday, or it's sunny, or it's raining, or you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's more how things get propagated these days.
So yeah, it's kind of a similar ecosystem, but
It has a
it's
similar effect in the end, but yeah, we do definitely think differently about what we make and what we do.
yeah. I have a question about what you guys make. Do you find yourself, now that it's getting harder to appeal to people with viral video, do you ever find yourself moving away from that, or like into like new mediums that maybe people haven't considered that could go viral?
Like what?
Like if you like I noticed that things are doing advertisements now, like when Overwatch came out, they just put giant action figures on the streets, or like when the new Samurai Jack Season 5 came out, they just had like a giant poster of just the main villain's face with nothing else. And it was just like these little teasers that didn't say anything, but people kind of knew what it was, and then it just blew up and like all over the internet.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question, and the answer is I'd love to say yes.
Yeah.
And we do have those. We do actually quite often have ideas like that, but just because of the way people think and the way clients think and the way agencies think, we're known for one thing, right?
Yeah.
We're known for videos. And so whenever we pitch an idea that isn't a video, it's almost like it gets ignored.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
People are like, yeah, but that's not what you do. We're like, well, yeah, but we can do that.
Yeah.
It's no different. It's no more or less complicated than making a film.
Yeah.
It's just different. Because we don't make, I mean, we're involved in making films, but from a kind of creative and production point of view, but I mean, we get other people to do it for us. Producing a film and producing a guerrilla campaign, you know, that is putting up cool models or hiding stuff around or whatever, it's the same thing, but that's not the way people think. People think about the outcomes, not the process.
Yeah.
And for them, is you guys make films, and so that's what we're going to come. So they've literally 99 times out of 100, when people come to us, they've already made up their minds what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted something that was like more like a guerrilla campaign. Even if the best response to their brief is a guerrilla marketing campaign, if we propose it, it won't get bought. So we don't do that. We often kind of wish we could.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably...
Man, you should...
But on the other hand, I got to say, I still think film is one of the best mediums for marketing. It's incredibly powerful. It's great to get emotions across. It's easy to make people laugh.
Yeah.
It's easy to make them cry. It's fluid. It's easy to propagate. There are so many platforms. So it doesn't bother me that we're stuck making videos, but for sure there are times when it would be better to do something else.
Yeah. You should, like how you did the moon landing video as kind of like a proof of concept. I think some original viral marketing or viral factory guerrilla campaigns to just get people, like get your name out there. I think that would be really interesting. Just do stuff to shake people up and be like, hey, look at how this worked. Just force them to see the light.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
That would be cool. I'd support that. I'd share it. My last real question is, it's kind of a personal thing, since I'm in college and also working in a dusty, dirty warehouse because my video production company that I have with my friends is pretty slow going, especially in our area, and we definitely don't make enough money to support ourselves off of it. Did you ever have to pick up an extra job or keep an extra job until you were sure that the Viral Factory would support you, or was it just right off the bat because of how potent it was just ready to go?
No, we struggled for a good 2 years. We weren't really making enough money to support ourselves. And I just had a kid and I just bought an apartment. Oh no, I hadn't just bought an apartment. I bought an apartment a few years before, but I just got married. So first couple of years definitely was a struggle, and we did a few jobs, but they had tiny budgets, and we were reinvesting most of the money into just basic stuff like getting business cards made and making showreel DVDs and sending them out, and, and trying to make, like you said, proof of concept videos. But that said, where I was lucky was I had come off the back of the .com boom. So I was in my early 30s when we started this company, and or maybe my late 20s. So I'd already had 10 years of working, and the last few years I'd had working for this VC company. I was ridiculously well paid, like way better paid than I should have been, because there was just so much money kicking around in the .com boom. And in the UK, I know this doesn't happen in the US, but in the UK, if you get fired, not because you've screwed up, but just because your job doesn't exist anymore, then they have to give you quite a lot of money. And that's basically what happened. I knew that I didn't resign from my job when we started the Viral Factory, because I wasn't doing anything. So I knew that my job was, like, I'd been sitting around for 2 months doing nothing. And almost everyone else that I worked with had already disappeared.
Yeah.
And I was still there. I was like, well, it's obvious they're going to make me redundant pretty soon. And I wanted to leave, but I stayed. And I just, I was kind of doing the Viral Factory, but from another office. Mm-hmm. And then they made me redundant, and that gave me enough cash to, we were broke.
Yeah.
We were super, but it gave me enough cash to not have to worry too much for a couple of years, and not have to worry about making not enough money to live on. So I was kind of lucky in that sense.
That's really cool. I hope I have a similar experience, because it's brutal having to do both at this time. But I think eventually things will look up. But who knows?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Like with the band and stuff, it's like,
yeah, Devin has a band that he's working on.
Yeah, it's doing pretty well. But I just want people to listen to it. I don't really care about getting big. I just want people to hear the story that we have to tell in this sense.
You should hire Matt and get a viral marketing campaign.
That's a great idea.
Well, you know what? Making a crazy video is, talk to the guys at OK Go.
Oh yeah.
I want to ask if you have any projects that you're excited about that are upcoming, but you probably can't really talk about them.
Yeah, if you can.
We're working on one at the moment, which isn't a viral at all. Funnily enough, it's unfortunately I can't say what it is, but it's not a TV ad, but it's for TV, and it's for the BBC, which is obviously our big state broadcaster.
Oh wow!
And then it's very specifically for Christmas, so it won't last very long. But I'm actually super excited by it, because it's just something completely different to what we normally do.
Oh, cool! That's super exciting. Yeah, no.
And we're working with that guy Nick, the guy who did the animation on the skiing video that I showed yesterday, and he's just great to work with. He's super talented, super nice guy, just really great.
Well, that's cool.
Is that going to be on the site once it's done?
You know what? I don't know. If we're allowed to put it on the site, then for sure we would, because the thing. It still has to get through a whole big process, but at the moment we're really happy with what's there. But I don't know if they'll let us, to be quite honest, because the thing is, it's different from internet video, which is supposed to kind of spread around and live everywhere. Mm-hmm. This is supposed to be for TV, so they may. I wouldn't put it this way. They wouldn't be at all surprised if they told us that we can't put it on the website.
Yeah. Very specific.
And that would be actually pretty fair enough. But if they do let us, then we definitely will.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
We're just gonna watch BBC around Christmas.
Yeah, we'll have to tap in, see it.
Yeah, well, it might be BBC Two. Watch BBC Two. It may be that, because you guys have BBC America, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
I don't really know what shows I watch on BBC. Is Doctor Who on BBC? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch that a lot, so...
This isn't a show. It's hard to explain without telling you what it is.
No,
So
I figured, but maybe I'd see it if I watched BBC around the time. But no, I'd like to see it. So I just wanted to ask if you were excited, and I'm glad to hear that you are.
yeah. What else? Actually, there's another project that I'm excited by because it's kind of punk. It's kind of taking us back to our roots. It has a tiny, tiny budget, but actually has kind of fun.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff. Working, making something from nothing is super good.
That's awesome. That's what I do. I'm used to that.
Yeah. Recording everything in a basement gives it that raw feel.
Yeah. No, this is more of like another personal thing, just because of what I do myself. Do you ever get clients that really just want to like not pay you anything but get the full package?
Oh, they don't respect your...
They don't respect the price of it, and they don't think that it's worth what you're trying to charge for. Because I get that all the time.
Yeah, me too, for things.
Yeah. Not so much. I think that's something that you have to deal with less as you get older.
Yeah.
Once you've got a few grey hairs and you can just talk authoritatively. And also there's a different attitude, Now when someone starts off with that kind of like questioning everything and, why should I pay? We're just like, well, don't. It's much easier for us to make them feel cheap and unworthy of us. Starts with that kind of nonsense, then we can be like, well, whatever. We work on budgets that are 50 times bigger than that, but we're trying to do. If you don't want to pay it, then don't waste our time. What the hell? It's much harder when you're starting out, when you're younger, when you don't have a track record you can point to, when you're trying to prove yourself. We used to have to suck it up, and we used to be in exactly the same position with people would be like, well, that's a huge amount of money. And we'd be like, that's not a huge amount of money. You've no idea what you're talking about. But that's cheap. Believe me, that's cheap. So, my business partner, Ed, is very good at making people feel bad. Hope he never hears this. But he's really good at like just putting people, making people feel feel cheap. So, but it is what it is, man. And the thing is, like when you're starting out, they know you're going to be desperate for their business. You just, there's not a lot you can do about it. You just have to, I guess you have to just draw a line in the sand, and then after a while you just go, well, it's not worth my while. It's, I'll put up with so much, but I'm not going to put up with that.
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
Figure out in your own head what that is. Definitely when you're losing money, maybe when you're not making any money, but maybe you decide, well, it's worth not making money to get something good on your showreel.
Yeah.
I think that's the same. That's not just film production. That's not just advertising. That's the same everywhere, right? There are very few things that you kind of pay for without questioning.
Yeah.
But it's annoying.
It's just like you wouldn't pay like a contractor any less to do something to your house or whatever than someone to make a video for you. I always get that feeling that people don't respect like an artistic or creative career enough. They don't. They take it for granted.
The creativity is one thing, but the craft, it is the fact that you know how to work a camera, that you know how to editing software works, that you have an aesthetic opinion, that you've been to college or you're at college and for sure you should be cheaper because you're at college and because you're learning your trade. So you should be cheaper than someone who's like been doing it for 20 years. But that doesn't mean that what you have is worth nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you get this. One of the things people always used to say to us is like, they'd be like, well, we want a viral video. How much?
Oh, yeah. We get that a lot.
Okay. Well, it depends a bit on this, depends on what you want, and do you want it to look really glossy, or do you want it to look, cheap and homemade? And, well, cheap and homemade, okay, well, that will cost less, so we give them a figure. And they're like, what? Like, well, that's pretty competitive. You know, go talk to some other production companies, see what they say. Like, well, but my friend has a camera. Why don't I get him to do it? Why do we have to pay actors? And it's like, well, then fine. Why are you talking to us? You know, sure, you can make that video on your own for $200 if you've got friends who've got equipment and who are willing to show up on a Saturday to some location which you're not paying for. You know, fine, do it. It'll cost you nothing, but A, it'll probably suck because you have no idea what you're doing. You know, there's no quality control whatsoever. There's no expertise. And B, man, it's a lot of work just getting all those people to show up on Saturday. And then you've got to have insurance. And you got, oh yeah, I guess. So quite often it's just, it's people think that, well, it's just, you just get it, you shot with a camera. It's like, no, man, there's way more to it than that,
It's hard enough to get enough people to get everyone to show up to band practice. I can only imagine if you're bringing all these people here to do a job or whatever, like that amount of people.
And that's the thing when people say they don't want to pay or whatever, they start nickel and diming you. One of the things to say to them is, well, do it yourself then. Because that makes them think about what is involved in them doing it themselves. You're going to need your friends. You're going to need to get them to a place. Start thinking about it. If it's that simple that you're only going to want to pay me $2,000, then you do it. And then they're like, oh, well, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a great response, actually.
Yeah.
I gotta try that.
I mean, you wouldn't go to a restaurant and be like, why is this burger?
Yeah.
I can make the same one in my kitchen for $3. Well, then do it.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous thing to say because you're at home. You're not getting served at your table, and there's not a guy behind there flipping the burgers, and we don't have to clean, the restaurant and all of it. It's like you don't compare those two things.
I have one more question I just thought of. This one, I don't know if you would want to say this or not, but for me, like, the highest budget I've ever had for a video was $1,800. And I'm just wondering, like, once you get to the point that you're at, what's a normal budget for, like, a viral video?
There is no normal budget.
And
I can't remember the highest budget we've ever had, but and to be quite honest, they've gone down in the recent. So they started very low, then they went up, and we probably had budgets that were around kind of $500,000 for production.
Wow.
Yeah, but man, I tell you, the thing about those high budgets is that the client's got a lot for their money, man. Like, Have you seen for Samsung we did with the bear, like rocking up to a shoot in like it's snowy and they've got a washing machine, a washing machine, like a clothes washer.
You know what? I think I did see this before.
I gotta look that up. I don't think I've seen it.
A bear shows up. So that was, I honestly can't remember how much the budget was for that, but that was like a pretty high budget. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, look at the film, particularly if you guys work, and you've sort of studied what goes into film production. I mean,
Oh, we're back.
We just had a second. It said call held remotely for a second.
Yeah, I actually got a call on my cell phone.
Oh, okay.
So that was why. Yeah, so what I was saying was, that was a big budget film, but there's a lot going on in that film. I mean, there was a massive location shoot. We had like a crew of 200 people, 200 miles north of Vancouver. We had 2 bears. There's a ton of production in there. I mean, so the budget was high, but what we had to deliver was super complex. And, for the amount of work we did, I wouldn't say that we made much more money off of that budget than we might have off one that was much smaller than that. So having bigger budgets, the great thing about having bigger budgets is it allows you to have ideas like that one, where you can say, oh, well, the bear takes its clothes off. if you don't have a lot of money, then that idea then doesn't exist. It's impossible to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, great big budgets are great in some ways, but it's not necessarily that you're going to make more money by having a big budget. We worked on that for months and months, and we did nothing else pretty much the entire time we were working on it because it was so big. So it's like a blessing and a curse in one. Sometimes slightly smaller budgets are actually easier to deal with.
Yeah, I could see that.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I just finished
But for
watching.
sure, what you don't get is the creative possibilities. And there is kind of joyful about going, hey, we can do what we want.
I mean,
Right.
is there a lot of stress when you're working for a bigger company like Samsung? Like, is there a lot on the table there, obviously, for the good product?
Not because it's Samsung. I've got to say, I love working for Samsung. They're a great client, and they're just smart. So they ask the right questions. They don't like put you under pressure for the hell of it. They only put you under pressure when they need to, which basically means you're not doing your job properly. And occasionally they would ask us questions. We'd be like, oh, we didn't talk about that. But it makes the end result better. But for sure, when you've got a bigger budget, that just puts way more stress on you because the stakes are higher. If you don't come back with something that's amazing, then really like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Then you've blown a whole bunch of money of the client's money, and that makes you feel really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of fear of, geez, this has to be the best thing ever, which is driving you, and the fear is higher with the higher budget.
Yeah, definitely. As the prices go up, I get more and more like bent out of shape when things go wrong, and like wondering if the client thinks I'm an idiot.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I was just like,
It's been giving me a little bit of a run for my money. I wasn't expecting to be so worried about it. But yeah.
But that's, I mean, unfortunately, that's part of what you're getting paid for, is to care.
Yeah. Give up your years off your life.
That's true.
It's to know and also to care.
All right. Well, I don't think I have any more questions. If there's anything else you want to say about viral marketing, like obviously,
what you do in general, really.
Yeah, our podcast is probably the farthest thing from a very informational podcast because we just kind of like
we talk about things we like.
Yeah, we talked about viral marketing campaigns we liked, and like the most in-depth thing was me explaining the Cloverfield one. So if you want to say anything about viral marketing, like any little bits of knowledge or anything like that people might not know, that's up to you.
No, I don't think so. I guess the only thing that I would like to say, I haven't really formulated this. I'll just start talking, and if it comes out wrong, then just don't include it. But we were just talking about budget, and one of the things that's like, it's one of those things that if I had $1 for every time someone said that to me, I'd be a rich man. At the moment, it's people coming and going, we want to do a viral marketing thing, great, how much have you got? They say some number, and I'm like, whoa, that's really low. That's like not a lot of money. They go, oh, well, but what about Dollar Shave Club? You guys know Dollar Shave Club?
Yeah.
So that's always the thing. What about Dollar Shave Club? So it's like, well, okay, what about Dollar Shave Club? Well, they made that for no money. Yeah, sure, they did make that for no money, but the thing is, the CEO of Dollar Shave Club is an ex-stand-up improv comedian who knows how to make a film. So that's why that's so good, right? It's because he would have worked his ass off on that. It looks like it was easy and it was thrown together, but, nothing is that easy. Mm-hmm. He would have rehearsed that, he would have scripted it, he would have learned it. The delivery is fantastic. He's great in front of camera. It's a great thing, but just because they didn't spend a lot of cash on it doesn't mean they didn't spend a lot of time on it, and doesn't mean that he has an innate talent that most people, including, especially most CEOs, just don't have. So I guess, I don't know what the point of this is, but I guess it's just like, it sort of reinforces that point that if you're going to do it yourself, great, But I have not seen another Dollar Shave Club that was. I mean, it wasn't a fluke because the guy knew exactly what he was doing, but it doesn't happen very often. So when people come to us like, well, what about Dollar Shave Club? It's like, fine. If that's what you want, you go ahead and do it yourself. Yeah. See if you could do something as good as Dollar Shave Club. But if you're going to come to an agency and ask them to do the job, then you can't expect us to just make Dollar Shave Club for you, but different. And the funny thing is, I've seen other videos by other agencies that are very clearly the result of that conversation.
Yeah.
Where they've ripped off Dollar Shave Club, but they've just done it really badly. And instead of having the actual CEO, they've got an actor, which just is ridiculous, right? I mean, but so easy to check that. You just Google it.
Yeah.
And you can tell. I mean, you can just tell. So, yeah, anyway, that's my rant.
I love it.
Shave Club, but, geez, I wish prospective clients would stop name-checking it to me.
Yeah. Man, that was incredible. I loved all this insight. Thank you so much for agreeing to this.
So I hope you've got enough stuff to edit my rant.
Oh, absolutely.
We're thinking, because this stuff was also good, we're thinking instead of, because we were just going to kind of inject it into the podcast, but we might just release this as like its own episode. Like have our podcast about viral marketing, and then halfway through the week before the next episode, release this and be like, hey, look what we have.
Yeah.
Great. Well, look, I'm glad, man.
Yeah, no, we're
thank
super
you so
proud
much.
that we're able to talk to you and like show this to everyone.
Yeah, this is like a dream come true.
Yeah, really, like we really like, because we plan to, obviously work in this field of media in some way someday. So.
Yeah.
This was super informational. Like, thank you so much for being so patient and helpful.
Yeah, and jumping through our
really,
hoops with the Skype stuff. Yeah,
it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, me too. It's fun to talk.
Yeah. Well,
thanks for giving me the opportunity, guys, and make me look good or make me sound good.
Absolutely.
Don't worry, we're going to tell everybody about this. Go listen to it. Go check out the Viral Factory. Go look at your stuff. We'll try and link every commercial that we talked about so people could go check them out. Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Talk to you soon. I'll send you an email with a link to this once it's out.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.